Morning, Alan. Just pop in and make sure you guys are good over here.
This has been an interesting journey.
I'm sure it has been. If it makes you feel better, the people that are watching, it's much easier for them. All right, I'll just checking in. I think you've got, oh, there you go. Good morning, Chief.
Morning, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, look good, sound good. I'm going to jump back over to my session. I just want to make sure you guys are good.
All right.
Good morning, Manny.
Morning, Chief.
Morning, everyone. Good to see you. I'm in my hotel room here in San Diego. I'm down here for a conference all week.
Oh, nice, nice. So your mics are live. We do have a few folks that have joined us already, and it's actually 9:30. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm so happy all my panelists signed on this morning because I could not fill any of your shoes. So thank you for joining me. So good morning, everyone that's in attendance. Welcome to the 2021 Economic Outlook State of Recovery Summit. Let me make sure we're all in the right place. I see my panelists, so they're in the right place. And for those of you that are wondering, this breakout session is restaurant, retail, and tourism. So if you're not in the right place, click and get to where you want to be. It's just that easy. So I'm Candance Simmons. I am the owner of All That and More Boutique. I'm your moderator for this session. My panel guests are Alan Shulman, owner and co-owner and chief operating officer of Akasha. We have Steve Wisner, who is the general manager of the new swanky hotel in Culver City, the Hilton. And if we get a little disorderly, we have Manuel, chief of police for Culver City Police Department. So thank you, panelists, for joining. I think everyone's decided this is where they want to be. So let me tell you what's going to happen during our breakout session. We're going to cover what's next for restaurant, retail, and tourism space in Culver City. With investments and flux on the horizon, how can the market capture the attention of the locals while retaining the momentum pre-pandemic? That's a lot to do, right? What does the coming compression from the upcoming regional events mean for these spaces, and who will thrive and why? That being said, the flow of the session will be, we have a few questions for our panelists. We're going to go over those questions. If there's time at the end, those of you that are in attendance, please put your comments and questions in the comment section, type them in. And if we can, we'll get to your questions as well. Take a few of them. But why don't we go ahead and get started? And let's start by having our panelists introduce yourselves. Tell us your name again and your sector that you're representing this morning. So we'll start in alphabetical order. Alan, tell us.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Alan Shulman. My wife and I own a restaurant downtown. The restaurant's called Akasha. We've been in Culver City it'll be 14 years in February. And
Awesome. Proud
member of the business community and the chamber.
Yes, we love to see your light shining on the corner there in Culver City. All right, Manny, tell us who you are.
Morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all. Manny Sid, the police chief here with Culver City, obviously responsible for public safety here in the city. Been fortunate to be with the department and serving the community for 18 years now, and been serving as a police chief for about a year and a half. Dog years, but a year and a half of a challenging.
I'm sure in this climate, they're definitely dog years.
But good to be with you all.
Thank you for your service. All right, Steve. Oh, you got to turn on your mic. You're muted. There you go.
Good morning. Yeah,
Good
Steve
morning.
Wisner, general manager of the Hilton Los Angeles Culver City. And we've been going through a very long renovation, but just about ready to open our restaurants in a couple weeks and bar area. So it's been a long renovation period, but we're excited to get that done. I think the hotel has been a chamber member since the early 70s. So long history with the chamber.
Wow. Yes, it's looking beautiful over there. So great job, Steve. I know you're building brick by brick on your own.
Seems like it.
And for those of you that don't know, I'm Candance Simmons, owner of All That and More Boutique, and I'm going to be representing the retail sector. So with that being said, we'll start with our first question. The pandemic has been disproportionately difficult on many business sectors. Few have been hit harder than retail, restaurant, and hospitality. What is the most difficult thing you've had to deal with over the last 12 months? And I know you're probably saying to yourself, it's really 24, but we're just going to cover the last 12. So still in alphabetical order, Alan, tell us what's happening over there.
Labor is a daily challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And few, the consumer was very patient, for the first 12 to 15 months and really understanding, and everybody was kind of on the same page. Mm-hmm. But over the last couple of months, expectations have changed.
Right.
Once the restaurant sector engaged and became more available, and more people were going out,
Mhm.
And masks requirements started to, get a little more laxed. People think that things should be back to normal, and the staff takes a hit on that level.
Mhm.
Uh, it's tricky, and then and after 2 years of this, emotions are really worn,
Mhm.
uh, at all levels, staff levels as well as consumer. So very challenging. It's very challenging, and we're going into a period right now. I think it's got the potential to be a renaissance,
Mhm.
actually, for the city and for Los Angeles, the greater part of Los Angeles, because uh, we're fully occupied. We're just no people here during the day yet. 2 or 3% of the population that occupies the offices are back at work.
Mhm.
Well, if all things stay on track by January, after the first of the year, we could see, we would be happy if we saw a 50% increase.
Right.
If everybody comes back, well, you know, staffing for that is challenging.
Mhm.
Uh, and the cost of labor today, it's running at a rate that's not sustainable.
Right.
It keeps going up, and there's more jobs than there are people.
Mhm.
And so people have so loyalty and commitment and quality of work, it's all on the line. It's all on the line, where we wrestle with it daily.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. All right. Well, Mandy, I'm going to skip you. I'm going to go to Steve and then come back to you. That's okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Great.
Steve,
Yeah,
what's
I
happening
can dance.
in
I
the
think
wholesale sector?
in the last 12 months, I think the most challenging thing for us has been trying to just navigate through all the constant changes in the health orders, trying to explain that to the employee base as well as the customer base. We're trying to book a wedding, for example, or an event has been very difficult for future because we just don't know the the constant change of the climate. So it's
Mhm.
getting better now that we are able to do meetings, but now we're kind of back to a vaccine mandate for for some of the larger meetings, and so we have to inform the customer of that, along with just trying to make sure the employees know what to say to each customer that comes in the door. So I think that's been the most challenging aspect of trying to navigate through that. And then also our business relies a lot on forecasting revenues and expenses and that kind of thing. And boy, it's just been very difficult
Sure.
to forecast the changes. 1 month we're doing really well, and then the next month seems to kind of crash a little bit, and then the next month we get some business in. So it's been very difficult. I mean, normally we try to be within a 5% plus or minus on our forecasts, and I haven't been that close lately.
Yeah, that's understandable. Anything else?
That's been the most challenging, just to be honest with you, just that. And then I think we'll probably talk about labor and staffing, I think, later on
Okay.
in the program, because we have the same challenges, obviously.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, Manny.
Yeah, similarly in some ways to what Alan and Steve talked about, probably right at the top of the list is continuing to bring our staff, at the police department, as an essential service to work every day and do so in the safest manner possible. These are folks that don't have the luxury of really working from home or working virtually. These are folks that have to come to work every day, and trying to do that, number one, to keep them safe while we go out and still try to provide a high level of service to the community. And sometimes having to deal with at-risk sectors of our community, which is challenging. So that's definitely towards the top of the list. All the while still, again, wanting to provide a high level of service. As it relates to the business community, up to recently dealing with the challenges we're seeing with the smash and grab stuff,
Oh
and
boy.
that's challenging to, again, at a time where police sector, the police department, not different than a lot of our business sector, dealing with staffing shortages and those challenges, while still wanting to be able to keep the community safe, have a visible presence in the community, and deter any of those sorts of things here in our community that we've seen around the region with some of the rises in crime. And most notably, again, as it relates to the business sector, some of the smash and grab and theft and robbery that we're seeing in and around our businesses. Though that's certainly challenging, but I think, we're certainly up to that challenge and tackling it the best way we can with really just a lot of collaboration with you all folks in the community at every turn, wherever we can find it. And really trying to have a visible presence in the community with hopes of deterring any of that significant types of activity that we've unfortunately seen around the region.
Great. Thank you. And I will just say on the retail side, it's very similar to what you've all shared. I would just add that in addition to responding to the various mandates, keeping staff safe, keeping folks, present, I would add just the availability of goods to provide when folks do come in addition to, folks are still shopping. So that's a beautiful thing. All throughout the pandemic, they found reasons to shop, but how they shop changed slightly based on, current events, and just keeping in mind just the overall safety from the virus, the safety from the environment. Those are key concerns that impact the retail sector. But I know in the last 12 months, what's been challenging is really getting goods in a timely manner. And that's where having multiple vendors, multiple suppliers has worked out really well for us. But it's still challenging in coordinating, shipments that are delayed because they're out in the ports. And, manufacturers are telling us goods are on their way, and we're anticipating them based on sales events that are taking place, Small Business Saturday, and then those goods not showing up, but people showing up. So it's been a constant juggling act, and keeping multiple balls in the air what has made a difference for us in the retail sector, in addition to all that you've shared. So, all right. So moving on to our next question is, we are currently in a long state of recovery. What are you most optimistic about for 2022, and what factors have led to that? And I'm going to go in reverse. So I'm going to start with Steve.
Great. Well, I'm always an optimist.
Good.
Not everything, but I think a couple of good signs that we're seeing, I think, at least from our hotel standpoint here, is the airport seems the travel at the airport, certainly the numbers there up pretty significantly. So that's a great sign for us here at the hotel. Also, I think what Alan said before, we just had a meeting over at the Apple headquarters, and they're planning, I think, to return in February. And we are hearing some other offices kind of in the same thing, kind of a next year thing, which is just around the corner. And that's kind of key to us, around the corner from us, certainly in Culver City and also in Playa Vista. We rely a lot on those office buildings being occupied. So that's kind of good news there, that we seem to hear that's happening fairly shortly, that we'll see a return to some of the offices, maybe not to the full, certainly not the full 100%, but even a little bit from the stage they're at now is going to be very helpful. And also we see meetings starting to return. Weddings are kind of a hot thing these days. A lot of traction on inquiries for weddings, because I think that's been put off for, during the pandemic. And so now people are interested in getting those booked. And so that's what great cause of optimism at our little hotel here.
Awesome. All right, Manny, what's got you optimistic for 2022?
Gosh, so much. As we see, obviously being in the community every day and the service we provide, starting to see the city coming back to life, for lack of better terms, and see businesses open up. We have so much growth in this community. To see some of it start to come online as recent as last week, getting to be at the tree lighting downtown and seeing a lot of the businesses and what the DBA did with that. That's really exciting for a bunch of reasons. But, on the PD side, the last 2 years for this profession have been as trying as they've ever been, and for me, the importance and really valuing the engagement that we're able to have and wanting to have with our community, to be able to do some of that in person is incredibly important. Is effective and efficient if we've been with these sorts of things, virtually, there's something to be said about being able to go to the women in business luncheon and get to sit down with Candance and talk and engage on a personal level. I think that's incredibly important for our department of policing right now, in light of where we've been over the last 2 years and where we want to go. So to see folks coming back into the community, going back to our restaurants, back to our businesses, being able to go to some of these engagements in person rather than virtually is something I'm looking forward to. And then the other part of that is really working hard with my staff to get some of our positions filled. Right now we're carrying about a 25% vacancy at the organization, which is significant. But looking to get those spots filled, get folks in those positions, which will allow us to do some of the things that I want to see us doing, like our bike patrols, like our foot patrols, particularly in our business districts, and having that presence, obviously serving as a deterrent, but also, again, allowing my line level staff, letting our police officers and some of our professional staff engage, with our businesses in the community and work with them on some of the challenges they may be facing from a quality of life standpoint, obviously from a crime standpoint. So optimistic that we're going to get some of those spots filled as the year gets going. And then again, coming back to that piece of really hoping to be able to increase our engagement with all of you folks and all of our community members as we get into 2022.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Alan, what's got you optimistic for 2022?
Listen, downtown at its optimum is going to see 8,000 to 10,000 people come back to work in a 4-block radius.
Right.
That's unbelievable.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see it's potentially boomtown, which is amazing. But the challenge is accessibility. In order to give hospitality, people have to be able to get to you.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of options. There's all kinds of options. There's places that the whole city is energized, and there are places that just simply didn't exist that, couple of years ago. So people have other options. So we've always been a very accessible, hospitable community. It's critically important that we pay special attention to that going forward. You'll have the working population down here. That's a given, and that's not existed. 40% of our business has always been driven by the daytime. We've always had a vibrant breakfast and always had a vibrant lunch, and dinner was always good. But dinner dinner is, you have the city in when it's lunch and breakfast, it's in your area you work. Right. When it's dinner, you have other options. So I'm really optimistic. I'd like to just get, I'd like to feel a little bit better about the labor situation, because it's the most challenging part, and you can't handle those opportunities if you don't have enough staff and you don't have the right staff. So that's a problem. And let me just say something else. I think Manny and his team have done an exemplary job under the toughest of conditions.
Yes.
Now's not the time to have less staff, because now is the time when it's most needed. There's a lot of crazy people out there doing insane things, and keeping the neighborhood safe is really, really important.
It is.
So, but I think I think it's going to be great next year. And I think the next few years, it's become the digital mecca of the country, for Christ's sake. Everybody's here. All the big companies that, with Warner and Apple and Amazon and all the post-production related companies that relate to them, all in the neighborhood now. Right. They weren't here 2 years ago.
Exactly.
It was Sony. Now we got a lot of attention.
Right. As Steve shared, the board members were at Apple, And it was interesting to hear that they occupy 13 locations in Culver City.
Oh yeah.
It was amazing.
They will clearly be at the top of the list of employers in the city in a short period of time. It's all since they bought Beats by Dre. I mean, ever since then, they've just, expanded like a juggernaut.
Right. Well, I'll say
on that note, Candance, if you remember, Jeff with Apple had shared with us that they're up to 3,500 employees, and half of which have never been to the office yet.
Right.
They're all virtual. So
wasn't it half have also been hired during the pandemic as well?
Yes. So Alan, you're going to have a lot of people at your door, I think.
They've taken so much commercial space down here. It's mind-boggling.
Yes. And the beauty in hearing and meeting with Jeff and just coming together as a board is to see that everyone's excited and everyone's moving forward. Everyone's optimistic about what 2020 will bring. In the retail space, what has me optimistic about moving forward was the same thing that got me moving forward when the pandemic hit. My prayer was that, well, listen, I signed a new 5-year lease on March 13th, March 5th, and the pandemic hit March 13th. And I said, God, was I really supposed to do this? But my clients continue to show up. The community that I serve, they still see value in what we offer. And I think a lot of retailers have continued to look at additional ways, because for my current customer base, everyone wants to touch and feel and have an experience because they're mature women 30 and up, and they want an experience. So that's where all the events, in-person activity came into play. And as the restrictions began to lift and we could have more people in person, it just shows that folks are excited to move forward. They're trying to find ways to move forward slowly, but still they're coming out. They still want a retail experience. They still want some retail therapy. They want those aha moments, and they want to come together and gather. So as I look at 2020 and I'm starting to do a little more 5 to 10 people in person events that folks are actually excited to attend, that gives me hope. And as I've said at the beginning of the pandemic, if folks continue to see value in what we offer, we will continue to move forward. When we stop offering value or folks stop seeing value in what we do, then that's when I'll start to be concerned. But so far, nothing's changed. Our clients show up and say, it's been a year, I haven't shopped, but now that I'm in the mood to shop, I wanted to come and see you first. So that gives us a whole lot of hope. As long as we continue to provide value, folks will continue to show up when they see value in us. Okay, so let's see. Let's talk about staffing. So what's staffing looking like for you? And have you seen any difficulty in finding and retaining employees? If so, why do you think that is? And so, man, I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah, we have. Obviously, I don't, preaching to the choir, probably for the policing profession, again, as I touched on earlier, challenging 2 years. Public sentiment around the profession presents challenges. I think all labor forces, you hear the term, great resignation and all of those things, certainly impacting law enforcement. We are seeing vacancies across this profession, not just CCPD, at rates that I certainly haven't seen them in my nearly 20 years. So challenging to say the least. What are we doing to counteract it? Right now we're really having to be as efficient as possible and do more with less, in the short term, until we're able to fill some of those positions. For us in policing, obviously we want to show some urgency in filling and recruiting these positions, but it's important that we do so intelligently and mindfully, right? As important it is for me to get staff and get folks in uniform, it's equally and maybe even more important to get the right people in there. I don't want to, for lack of better terms, cut my nose to spite my face and get the wrong people the work that we do is incredibly important. It's sensitive, and it's important to me that I get the right folks, police officers filling those positions. So we really do a good job and want to continue to keep a high level and high standard with the folks that we are recruiting. But I think what's even more important is the retention piece, right? And I think we can all agree, no matter what profession we're talking about, our staff is the most valuable and the most important asset we all have in keeping our businesses and the service we're trying to provide going. So really do a lot to try to retain our staff, take care of our staff, support them, develop them, and then understanding that if we can do a good job of retaining our staff, being mindful of their wellness, both physical and mental, is really important for us in our profession. That if we can do a good job of retaining them, that's important. They'll be available to us at the department, and most importantly to the community, to provide service. But then they're also, I think when you do a good job of retaining your staff, they're your best recruiters in getting new staff.
Right.
And certainly the case for us in policing. So, I think we're having some early success with that. We've got to kind of keep that momentum going as we get into 2022. But yeah, have we seen those challenges? Sure, we have. I think we're seeing that across labor forces, certainly in policing. But I think the tide's going to turn with that. We're doing a lot of exciting stuff internally at the organization. And although it is a challenging time in policing, I would also say it's an exciting time in policing. And it's an opportunity to come into a profession that's really, taking some significant turns and doing some significant growth. And I look at that at a time when some folks are looking to get out of it and kind of run for the hills. I think it's an exciting time for a lot of our young folks that want to come into this profession and be a part of something exciting and the growth that is this profession. And, I think that the future holds a lot of promise. We have a lot of young, educated, talented folks coming into this profession. I'm excited about what they can do, how they can kind of carry the mantle going forward.
So, Manny, a follow-up to that is that in terms of this 25% that you're looking to fill, are you looking for cross recruitment? Are you recruiting from other areas, or is it more the onboarding process of bringing new recruits on? How are you planning to fill that 25%, or what's ideal for filling that 25%?
Great question. So of that 25%, at least half of it is what we can, professional staff, not necessarily police officers, which I think sometimes at a policing organization, we kind of tend to forget about. We talk about our cops, which are obviously important, but there's professional staff that support what these folks do, from administrative staff all the way through to our parking enforcement out in the field, our animal services officers, professional staff members. So, we can't forget about them because they do a lot of important work in our community. So what are we doing? Really it's a multifaceted approach to it, where we can find good lateral staff, right? Folks that are already in the policing profession at other organizations. We're not above, trying to, compete with our competitors, if you will, and recruit some of that staff where we can find the good ones. But again, I really want to highlight the fact that it's about getting the right folks that fit our culture, fit our values, what we're trying to do. And that's going to change from policing organization to policing organization. And we want folks that want to come here, have a good understanding of what we're trying to do at CCPD, that fit that mold, that meet those standards. And you've got to be really careful with that sometimes when you're talking about that cross-board, as you mentioned, that, folks that have maybe been a few years at, LAPD or somewhere else, different culture, different expectation. We want to make sure that they understand what the expectations are here and how they fit our mold. And then we're always looking for that fresh new talent, for lack of a better term, right? And we try to farm that from within the organization with, our Explorer program, in the community, at our, in our schools, at our community groups. We really try to be inclusive with how we recruit, and we get creative going out to our colleges, our athletic teams nearby, our different, social groups, different expos, so on and so forth. Wherever we can find it, that's where those partnerships with our community come in play, because we're, it's amazing where we can find the different talent, if you will. So we really try to take a multifaceted approach to it, throw out the broadest net possible, and see, who we can come up with. And I think we have had success with that in the past, and I think it'll serve us well.
Great, thank you. It's good that you highlighted those other areas of staffing needs, because I often think of just the police officers, but forget the admin support in the other areas. So Steve, how are you finding staff, retaining staff? How are things going in your sector?
Yeah, it's been very challenging. I think it's kind of already illustrated on a couple previous comments, but the applicant pool is really tough right now. Before we'd have quite a few applicants that would come through, and of course, being a Hilton hotel, we really got to find the right person. You can't really teach hospitality, so we really need the right fit for our hotel. So we basically have the most openings we've ever had at the property right now. We usually had a goal of trying to fill a position within a couple of weeks in the past, and we were able to do that. But now it's been a lot longer process in trying to find the right individual and trying to hire them and get them onboarded. And I think that back in the old days, and maybe Alan can relate to this, you used to be able to do a job fair or be able to have some type of event where you could get a nice pool of employees and hire them. And I kind of laugh now because I see I was at the Coffee Bean this morning, and I saw a big poster that said job fair coming up, with posted rates on it even some of the coffee places and fast food restaurants, you see job fair with hourly rates posted, which is kind of interesting dynamic, which we haven't seen before. And I've actually asked a couple of hotels that have tried the job fair, and they've actually had nobody show up sometimes when they were hosting a job fair. Right. And then I think the other thing I've seen, which I've never seen before, is you would book an appointment for someone to come in and interview, and they no show. They just didn't come in. Right. And so we don't know if it's, because they get another job that quickly, or they weren't really interested or whatever. So it's been a process. And so our HR departments have been really trying to be creative and using the internet and using the tools of the different, casting a wide net, as he said, using some of the technology to try to attract the employees. But it's really tough right now. There's a lot of employers also doing signing bonuses.
Boy.
Which is another tough thing to battle as we go through. So it's a tough environment right now, and you got to be really creative to attract the right people.
Yeah, I saw something at one of the restaurants in downtown Culver City where it had instant pay. No, I actually received an email where it says instant pay. And I was like, what does that mean? They get paid, they come in and go to work, and they get paid the same day that they go to work. I was like, how does that work, and how can you keep that going? So it's interesting.
Yeah.
How are you getting your staff in?
Oh.
I think she was turning it to you, Alan, before she froze up.
Oh, I didn't hear. I actually didn't hear anything.
Okay.
Listen, there's a couple of both sides of the house. They have slightly different at the management level. You're in a headhunter world. So if you talk about cost and cost of hire, it's gone up significantly. I mean, you could pay $8,000 to $10,000 just to hire somebody, and you don't know what the longevity is really going to be. In the kitchen, when Steve mentioned signing bonuses, you have line cooks that are being hired with signing bonuses. It's unheard of. The cost of labor today in the kitchen, and we're anything but a minimum wage house. I mean, we pay our labor very well, and the cost of labor is up 35%. That's why I say what's difficult is how to sustain it. But one of the most challenging things is, this generation, hundreds of thousands of people. I was reading something today. Several 100,000 people have left the workforce last month and again this month. Literally left the workforce. I'm not talking about unemployment. I'm talking about people that just quit their jobs. That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign, because for all those that are leaving the workforce for whatever reason, and hospitality's been here forever. So there needs to be a recycling component of that coming from the other side. So there has to be a whole nother generation of people that are interested in that level of service. Servers are making as much. I've watched it track the actual earnings of our servers and whatnot, and our front of the house staff because they're your minimum wage workers mathematically, but they're making as much money per hour today as they were making pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
The kitchen is where the cost of labor has gone up dramatically. And my fear is that the neighborhood will only support so much. And making money doing it is challenging, is super challenging. So we do everything. I mean, we run ads like crazy. For 8 years, we had next to no turnover. We had in the whole building. It was very stable. The last few years, going into the pre-pandemic, it was challenging because of downtown. We had all that construction going on, so it kind of created its own own obstacles. Now, it's one of our biggest frustrations, actually. I mean, we're real proud of the product we put out, and we're proud of maintaining our hospitality, and have always been engaging to the community, even throughout the pandemic.
Right.
But you know, it gets a little tiring. It does get a little tiring.
I agree. It's very challenging, but we're here.
And we're all working as you know. The work ethic is so different. When I grew up in this industry, as a kid growing up and a young adult, what I did every day was very important, and achieving was an important thing. Today, it's expected. Yeah. Today, the expectation on the workers' side is, you know, they don't give you that necessarily, that extra yard with the opportunity to be making more money. It's not about, you know, reward for performance. It's now kind of expected, which is, that too is emotionally challenging.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I find that in the retail space, we generally deal with a lot of part-time associates, but when we're able to bring in folks that have retired and folks that are entering into the workforce, and we have those two dynamics working together, there's a sharing of experiences, there's a sharing of ethics, and you know, just how to approach a job. So there's some modeling of behaviors, as well as some teaching that takes place back and forth that sometimes gets lost when it's just folks that are transitioning into the workforce that have those expectations and the mix isn't there. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to move on to a question specifically for Manny, but I think there's definitely other things that will come up as we share. So Manny, with the latest rash of burglaries, and residents and business owners are very concerned. Can you share what the Culver City Police Department is doing proactively to address this threat to our community?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So concerning and challenging, to say the least. And, you know, I'll start by saying, not to downplay the challenge in any way, but, you know, to this point, we as a community, Culver City has been in a much better place than some of our surrounding communities that have really been hit hard. We've been fortunate, I think, through some collaborative effort, you know, with the department and our regional partners, and then our business community, to avoid some of the scale that we've seen in some other places. That said, it's challenging, right? And we have, you know, we got Westfield, which is a pretty significant size shopping location for our folks here in the region, and you know, we have our challenges there, and then all the way down to some of our smaller shopping centers, you know, like Raintree and so on and so forth. So, you know, what are we doing? First and foremost, I think our presence in the community and our ability to be a deterrent through our mere presence is going to always be where we start. And starting with Westfield throughout the holiday season, which is our practice, we're going to have increased, specifically assigned staff to the Westfield Shopping Center, which as we get through, further into the holiday season, we extend out through kind of the Jefferson corridor all the way up to Overland, as well as downtown. So you're going to see increased staff down there, on bike, on foot, just being there to respond, as well as just being a deterrent to any of that sort of activity. The other part of it is just really working well collaboratively with our regional partners. And in a day and age where, so much of, I hate to say it, our crime related, social media has a big play in that. So we use that to our advantage as much as we can to really, from an intelligence standpoint, to get out ahead of incidents that may occur, particularly when they're coordinated efforts, some of these smash and grab things that you see. So as much as possible, our staff, from an intelligence standpoint, gets as much information as we can, and then we utilize that for what we're doing operationally out in the field, trying to deploy our staff accordingly, get out ahead of any possible threats to our businesses, flash mobs, the smash and grab things that we've been seeing. So the last piece of that is, again, and I touched on it earlier, is a collaboration with you folks in the community. And, the old see something, say something, talk to us. You're our eyes and ears out there a lot. We have a really good working relationship with so many of our businesses. When we talk about Westfield, we work really well with their general management and their security staff. What they're seeing, we try to be responsive to it. And, all the way down to some of our smaller businesses, whether we utilize our PIP team, our partnership and policing team, they'll go out and meet with you folks, kind of work more on a personalized level on some of the challenges you may be facing, give you insights from a security standpoint. And then lastly, if you need us, call us. And the one thing we continually pride ourselves in here in Culver City, which is different than, frankly, some of our regional partners, is we're going to get there, and we're going to get there quickly. And when something is going on or something is afoot, don't hesitate to call. If in doubt, call. We'll get there. Work through whatever the challenge is. Obviously, if it's crime related, take the appropriate action. So talk to us if you got something that's popping up. You've got a concern, a vagrancy issue, obviously a criminal issue. Something doesn't seem right. Call us. We'll respond, and we are going to try our darndest, staffing allowing, to have a visible presence, particularly through the holiday season, around the shopping centers, the mall, in downtown.
That's good to know. Thank you so much for that. So now, well, one of the things that I wanted to say too, as Alan shared, Chief said, we really appreciate the response times that I have consistently seen whenever we contact the Culver City Police. It's typically within a 2 to 5 minute call that someone is here, addressing the situation. And, I know personally, as well as my clients, we really appreciate that. There's a lot of vagrancy that's happened as the recycler trucks have come back into the Raintree Plaza, and it presents a lot of challenges with folks roaming and not harassing, but appearing to be somewhat of a concern to the clients that are coming in. So when calls are made, there's a great response. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. And again, I'll just echo, we're here to work with you all and here to serve you all. Don't ever hesitate to reach out. We will get there as quickly as possible, and we'll work through whatever the challenge is. Mm-hmm. But thank you.
Yes. So we have 1 minute left. Is there anything pressing that I didn't ask that anyone wants to share at this time as we look forward to 2022? Alan?
Oh, God. That could be a loaded question. Yeah, a little more comfort is what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking to some normalcy. I'm a real optimist. I'm always the glass is half full, and I would just like to get back to some form of a normal course of doing business. I would hate to think that this is the new norm.
I agree. How about you, Steve? Anything you want to share? What are you looking forward to in 2022?
Just looking forward to a lot of the big events that we have coming up. We just had the BTS concert at the SoFi Stadium that was unbelievable. I mean, we picked up so many rooms from that. I guess it's the Korean boys band Army over 4 nights. I mean, we ran super high occupancy, and it was a great event. And of course, we've had the football games going on. We got the Super Bowl here coming up February 13th, and some of the other concerts that are coming up, Coldplay and a couple other big ones. So I'm just really looking forward to taking advantage of some of the demand returning to the area.
Mhm. Awesome. How about you, Manny? Anything you're looking forward to in 2022?
Yeah, I'll double down on what Steve said. He kind of took my thunder. That the Super Bowl. That's something that right as we get through the holidays, as a department and regionally, we're preparing from a bunch of different perspectives. But I fully expect and am hoping for the community that we're going to see an influx of folks into our region, for our restaurants, for our shops, certainly for for the hotels. I fully expect that. And an increased, presence of folks, which I think will be great for this community, but obviously wanting to be mindful of safety as we go through that. So we're going to have increased staff throughout that entire week. We, have been planning for it for a few months now. So obviously as that comes up, if any issues arise, you have any concerns, feel free to reach out to me and the staff at the department, and we'll kind of, help you through those things. But we are very cognizant of it and looking forward to it. It's an exciting event for the region, and Inglewood's just next door, so hopefully all positive things for CC.
Yes. And I'll just say on the retail side, we're just looking forward to folks coming back, as Alan shared and everyone has shared. We're looking forward to folks continuing to shop local, think big, shop small, and giving us an opportunity, to service you first before you go to the big box retailers. So that being said, I thank all of you for your time. We thank the attendees for joining. Again, at this time, you can pop off of this session and go do some networking and get ready for your next session. So thank you for spending your morning with us this morning. You guys have a great day.
Great being with you all.
Great week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Chief, what hotel are you at? I'm trying to figure that out. Is that the Bayfront in San Diego?
Yes, actually. Good. Nice, Steve. Well played. Yes, down here for a Chiefs conference for the region for a couple days, and I didn't want to miss the event. But yes, I'm in at the Bayfront.
Great.
Nice.
Well played.
Way to know your hotel, Steve.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's impressive.
Been down there for 6 years before, so I kind of know the hotels.
All from a wall and a window. Steve, you should be an investigator. I could use you.
Right. And I thought I was good. I could always tell my clients what they're wearing by their collars if it's from our store. But Steve, yes, they help you got that one.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, guys, have a great day.
Guys.
And
Take care.
The sessions.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.